Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the man behind the counter, Duncan, and today we're going to talk about the sequel to the last video I posted, Man of Steel. This is Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. And when this was first announced, I was really excited. I liked Man of Steel pretty well. I've appreciated it more over time, which I explained in my last video. But going into this, like when it was announced and then I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, this looks great. This should be absolutely epic. It should be awesome. I'm on board. This just looks amazing. And then usually when a movie comes out, a big movie of this magnitude, I usually wait a week or two and let everybody's just so anxious to see it, go see it in the theater, and I kind of like to go at a more time when it's a little more laid back and I can just really take the movie in. Now, this movie was a disappointment to me, honestly. Like, I first saw the Rotten Tomatoes score, which I put no stock in, really, or what critics say most of the time. I'll read just to get an overview of the movie, but I always decide for myself, even when they're overwhelmingly bad. Now, here they weren't overwhelmingly bad, but they weren't good. I mean, they should, everybody thought, they would be a lot higher. And Man of Steel was kind of mixed to positive. Here it was just mixed to bad. And but I still decided for myself. I went to see it, and it was just at times I had fun with it, and I was really on board. And then it would just jump to the next sequence, and I wondered how it got there, and it just felt messy. It just was kind of dark and tonally messy. It just didn't feel right. But at the end of the day, I still had some fun with it. I got to see some cool stuff, so I bought it on Blu-ray. I'm like, okay, I'll look at it from time to time because it is fun if I'm in the mood for something fun, but maybe not the most intelligent movie ever made. I'll watch it if I'm in the mood for a kind of big superhero flick, and that's what this was, and it delivered in that respect. But it was still, when you first heard about it and saw the trailer, it was disappointing. You couldn't help but be disappointed. But I still liked it overall. I thought it was a little unfair. But I decided last week I had some time and I was like, I'm going to watch this Ultimate Edition. I heard it was better, but I was, me and Director's Cut, I've talked about this in previous videos. It's really a mixed bag with me. Sometimes I really like the Director's Cut. Sometimes I prefer the theatrical. It's just not needed. Like, there's certain movies I have in my collection that, the theatrical cut is more than sufficient for me. I watch the Director's Cut to kind of see some extra stuff, and sometimes it works, but most of the time the theatrical is the more efficient, and what's necessary. And director's cut, it kind of bloats it a lot of times. The only ones where it really improved it to me were the Chronicles of Riddick was one where I thought it should have come out in theaters, the director's cut that I got on DVD, and that was a bigger improvement. And that was just a few minutes of footage, not a ton. This one is 30 minutes longer, so a 2.5 hour movie turned into 3 hours. Now, I'm going to review this Ultimate Edition here. I finally watched, the original cut that director Zack Snyder did, and so they put it on this Blu-ray, and I gotta say, this Ultimate Edition is the definitive edition of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. It's just better in every way. Like, I thought it'd make a little bit of a difference, flesh some things out, which it does. And it does add to a lot of things and helps these lapses that I talked about and these messy parts where it just jumped in sequences. And here it's a much better presentation, and everything's laid out much better. And there's just several scenes, like when I was watching the theatrical cut, even when I bought it and watched it at home, like, how does Lois find the kryptonite spear? She just dives in the water and goes and gets it. I'm like, how did she know that? In the Ultimate Edition, you see how she knows. And then when people are hostile towards Superman at the beginning of the movie, and they kind of have him appear at a public hearing at the Capitol, and you're wondering, when I was in the theater and I watched it, I'm like, why are they so angry with him? He was just rescuing Lois. Why is this so controversial? In the Ultimate Edition, that's explained more clearly. And then there was another part, like, I'm spoiling a little bit here. I'm sure you've seen it by now, but like, when the bomb is in the motorized wheelchair, when they're doing the Superman hearing, how did he not see it? And how did he not see that? That was explained. The wheelchair was made of lead, so he couldn't have seen it. Because here it's just like, a lot of things were just made much better, and like you could see why there was controversy around Superman. I mean, it was explained a little bit in the theatrical cut, but here it's much more detailed and a much better movie. I mean, it's really a night and day difference. Now, the plot here is basically the Superman, the controversies around him, and Batman, you know, the neighboring Gotham City across the lake, he's, doing his form of justice, and he thinks Superman is a threat. And, you know, there's just that great interplay here. And in this Ultimate Edition, it's much more laid out more clearly. And, you get to see what leads to their conflict and how they ultimately have to put aside their differences and team up and realize they have a lot more in common than they think. And Wonder Woman joins in that, and they take on Lex Luthor, who created Doomsday and was obsessed with taking down Superman. And so all that comes together in this epic movie that I am so glad I finally took the time to watch the 3 hours and had the patience to see what Zack Snyder was trying to do. And honestly, Warner Brothers, I have a lot of their movies. They make great memories for me. But shame on them for putting this incomplete version in the theater and passing it off, because this Ultimate Edition was so much better. And I think people that didn't like it, you still may not like it, because Zack Snyder, some of his visions for superhero movies, like, isn't always the most accessible necessarily. There are some people that are just not going to care for it, and I get that, but I really liked his take. And but this one, this Ultimate Edition, is so much better and did it justice. And like I said, shame on Warner Brothers for not putting out. I don't get that, because they're like, what were they thinking? Like, oh, 3 hours is just going to be too long. It won't work. Really, Avatar did pretty well. Titanic did pretty well. Avengers Endgame did pretty well. Those are all 3 hour plus movies, and their box office receipts are just fine, I think. So, you know, that's a kind of what if scenario. But this one with Hans Zimmer's score and Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck was pretty good as Batman. I liked him pretty well. And Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was awesome. So all of that was it was just a really fun time, and I'm so glad I finally sat down and rediscovered this movie, and I look at it in a new light. And from now on, I promise you, when I pull it out of my collection to play it one night, it's going to be the 3 hour Ultimate Edition for sure. So that's all I have for today. Let me know in the comments, have you seen the 3 hour cut? What did you think of it? Did it make a lot of difference to you? Are there some other theatrical cuts that you think didn't do a film justice? Let me know any of that in the comments. And what do you think the future is for DC? Let me know any of that. And thanks for your time. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.